everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. I am your host, John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about Tommy Boy and its brand new Paramount 4K Blu-ray that just came out. But before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I always like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So if you don't want to know anything about the film Tommy Boy, and you're just here for that 4K Blu-ray review, you guys can skip ahead to that right now. So back on March 31st, 1995, Peter Siegel delivered to us Tommy Boy, which was produced by Lorne Michaels, you know, the head, the executive producer for Saturday Night Live. Two of the biggest stars on Saturday Night Live at that time are David Spade and, of course, the legendary Chris Farley, who was probably at the height of his powers in 1995. I mean, this guy took off like a rocket, had so many classic skits on Saturday Night Live, and, of course, now he's transitioning into film. And, unfortunately, as we all know about Chris Farley, his life got cut pretty short. For a lot of people, including myself, it's a very, very, very sad story, just because you could just see how good of a comedic actor this guy was, how committed to it he was, and just how genuinely funny and nice he was. And David Spade was his real-life best friend, and the two of them made a couple films in the 1990s. This is obviously their most famous film. And, you know, the reason why we even ended up with Black Sheep is because this movie was, you know, developed a big cult following, but didn't make as much money as people were expecting it to make, so they ran it back with Black Sheep. But Tommy Boy is still the better of those films, in my opinion. You know, you just get great chemistry between these two. And the story, it's pretty damn heartwarming. It's very much a 1990s film. Very simple plot. Tommy Callahan Jr., he's just getting out of college. He's been in there for 7 years. David Spade makes sure to point out to him, yeah, plenty of people go to college for that long. They're doctors. So he's just a big, lovable idiot, but everybody loves him. Nobody loves this pretentious kind of suck-up douchebag that David Spade is playing. He's got to learn his lesson as well, just like Tommy Boy has to learn that, you know, life isn't all fun and games. You got to smarten up a little bit. But his father, Big Tom, played by the great Brian Dennehy, who's perfect casting as Chris Farley's dad. I mean, they have very similar looking eyes. Obviously, they have very similar looking bodies. When David Spade's asked, how do we look? He's like, chubby, of course. So, but the beginning of the movie, he's getting married to somebody, a smoke show, much younger than him. It looks like, I guess, maybe not much younger, but definitely out of his league. She just, I guess, wants those Tommy Callahan brake pads. But unfortunately, he does die at the wedding, and, you know, now his new wife, lucky for her, he died that very day, also has a son played by Rob Lowe, who always pops up in these Paramount, Lorne Michaels produced movies. Like a few years earlier, he's also the villain in Wayne's World. And Rob Lowe, always down to do anything. He's really funny in this movie. Not as smart as he was in Wayne's World. He really thinks he's got the upper hand, but he's a little bit of an idiot. Just these bad things keep happening to him. These slapsticky things keep happening to him throughout the entire movie. But he's obviously a phenomenal actor. Great to see him pop up in this movie as well. Of course, Dan Aykroyd's also in this movie as Ray Zielinski. Love it when he whips out that like little accent that he does. You know, that very like Midwestern American, like, I'm gonna sell you some brake pads, the best brake pads you have ever gotten. I love that little accent that Dan Aykroyd does in this movie. It works out perfectly. Of course, we know that he's a little bit of a schmuck himself, but still, overall, in the world of bad businessmen, you know, he means well. He's just he's a little bit misguided. But, of course, you're here for these great comedy bits. That's what this movie's written for. It's really a vehicle for David Spade and Chris Farley, the two writers of this movie, actually, who also did Wayne's World and created the TV shows Third Rock from the Sun, and also that 70s show, had already left the movie before the rewrites even started. So they actually had to rewrite, like, I think the second and third act, really to make it more funnier, have some more comedy bits in there, and that's kind of how this movie works. You kind of go from comedy scene to comedy scene to comedy scene. The plot's there to have the through line, but you're really there to see these little moments between Chris Farley and David Spade. Fat guy in a little coat. Like, that was something that David Spade and Chris Farley used to do just in their writer's room. They used to share a room together on SNL, and Chris Farley would throw the jacket on and do fat guy in a little coat, so it made it into the movie.
Richard, what's happening?
You know, little things like that. Obviously, some of the lines in this movie I still quote to this very day. Hey, lady, there's a whale on your boat. Man, I wish we had some wind out here.
And the medic gets out and says, oh my God. New guy's in the corner puking his guts out.
Right here. Not here or here so much, but right here.
Just so many classic lines. Richard, what did you do? The movie is one of those comedy movies from the 1990s, like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Austin Powers, Wayne's World, those comedy movies that so many of us grew up with that we still love to this very day. I don't know if these movies still get new fans, but if you were a kid in the 1990s, this is one of those movies you absolutely loved. You quoted it all the time. I still quote this movie to this very day. I could definitely recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. It's very much a 1990s film. All throughout, the score just screams 1990s. We have to end this movie on the note you would expect this movie to end on, and that's absolutely fine. This isn't a cinematic masterpiece. This is to give you a bunch of good belly laughs, and it still will do that all of these years later. 30 years later, I cannot believe that Tommy Boy is 30 years old. Man, we are getting really old. But anyway, let's talk about this Paramount 4K Blu-ray.
I love you.
Well, here it is, Tommy Boy on 4K Blu-ray. This will be replacing my old Tommy Boy Blu-ray that is packed in here. The exact same Blu-ray is packed into this. And I imagine if you bought one of those steelbooks, the Walmart exclusive steelbook, or that yellow steelbook, the Blu-ray that's packed in there is also the same exact Blu-ray. And that's the Blu-ray that will feature all of your extras as well. So the only upgrade that you'll be receiving here, including the packaging, is an upgrade to the visuals because the audio is still a Dolby True HD 5.1. And honestly, that's kind of why I was holding out on buying this 4K Blu-ray. I had no intentions of buying this on March 25th when this came out. But the thing was, it dropped in price so fast. I was able to get it with a coupon on Amazon with shipping and handling and taxes and everything, even though I do have free shipping because it's Amazon Prime. But still, it cost $18 to get a brand new 4K Blu-ray. I took that as a very bad sign, though, and we talked about a Paramount 4K Blu-ray last week, and I told you guys how Galaxy Quest is one of those 4K Blu-rays that shows how Paramount, when they want to, can do a fantastic job on a 4K Blu-ray transfer, give you all the bells and whistles, give you some new extras, everything you could ever imagine. Well, unfortunately, there's also the bad side of Paramount, and that seems to be the side that Tommy Boy here got. Because Tommy Boy, let's just go inside. You come in here, like I said, same artwork underneath. I got the standard edition, one black 4K Blu-ray disc, and one blue Blu-ray disc. And the extras are great. They're the same extras as we've had for years and years, but there is a great making-of documentary on there. Given it's labeled featurettes, but if you hit play all, it'll make it into one big 56-minute long making-of documentary. Back when we used to get these on every single movie, like a movie like this, a comedy from the mid-1990s, to find out everything you could ever want to find out about this film is awesome. You also get a gag reel, deleted scenes, everything you could imagine in the extras just because this is what they used to do. They also gave you a great menu system to operate in. Really, when physical media was like kind of at the height of its powers, I guess, in the mid to late 2000s, you know, people were still buying Blu-rays, you know, just before streaming really took off, people were still buying Blu-rays, and, you know, they really appreciated those little extras in there, those little Easter eggs, and it just made it feel a little bit special. So when you jump to the 4K Blu-ray and you get that just standard Paramount 4K Blu-ray menu, which is very, very boring, and I get it. It's not something that's really important, but it's just that, you know, you kind of expect a little bit more when you pay a premium like this. But, you know, unfortunately, this is not what we got. So, yeah, the extras are great. It's just there's no new extras. So if you were expecting, like, maybe a looking back, you're not going to get that here. Now, the audio, it's the same exact Dolby True HD 5.1 audio that was on the previously released Blu-ray. It's fine, just like a lot of Dolby True HD 5.1s that Paramount likes to recycle. You know, they're fine for the most part. None of them really are going to knock your socks off. It's a comedy movie, so everything comes in crisp and clear. As long as the dialogue is clear and, you know, you don't have to adjust your volume. I guess that's all we can hope for. It's got that good 90s score. It comes in clear as well. I guess, you know, one thing, this is kind of supports the arguments for people who say that comedy shouldn't be going to 4K Blu-ray because you don't get that much of an upgrade in the audio options, and are the visuals worth that price of admission? Well, you know, this is a good example for those people, while Galaxy Quest is a good example of why we upgrade to 4K Blu-ray for comedies. Given that's more of an action comedy, this is more of a straightforward buddy comedy, road comedy, so I get their arguments here, but it does feel like Paramount is not helping to support bringing more comedies to 4K Blu-ray when you kind of go the lazy route like this. Very similar to like Anchorman last year, but yet they also did Major League, which was a great 4K Blu-ray from last year. So I guess we got to dive into the visuals because the audio and the extras are exactly the same. So are the visuals worth that upgrade? Well, in the early part of the movie, I didn't think so. You do get Dolby Vision and HDR10. Some scenes just looked a little bit too muddy, a little bit too warm when they were at the college especially. Then, you know, as the movie starts to progress, there are some very good looking scenes in this film where the HDR is actually doing a good job. You start to notice like reflections on the cars that you probably have never noticed before because the movie's much sharper. The colors pop a little bit more now that we have the bigger, wider color gamut. And I was like, okay, this looks like what I would expect a 4K Blu-ray Blu-ray to look like. Never a 10 out of 10 as far as the visuals go, but at least you can see that there is an upgrade in there. The problem is it's like your regular old Paramount 4K Blu-ray releases where sometimes other scenes will look worse than some scenes, and that's really something you shouldn't have in a 4K Blu-ray release at this point in 2025. It shouldn't be a scene-to-scene basis where some scenes look better than the others. You should have consistency in these things. This is actually something I've seen from Paramount a bunch of times in the past. It feels like a Paramount 4K Blu-ray release that you've seen. Nothing as bad as Footloose, but nothing as good as Galaxy Quest or Major League. This is just a middle-of-the-pack 4K Blu-ray release, probably priced perfectly at $18, but you could probably buy it for like $10 even further down the line, and that's probably the sweet spot for this. I don't know what Paramount's doing. They've had a lot of their 4K Blu-rays on sale. You know, like I said, Paramount is probably the most mixed bag when it comes to studios as far as consistency goes, so this is definitely falling in line with one of their middle-of-the-pack releases. I would say wait to upgrade this, especially if you have that previously released Blu-ray. You're only going to be getting a slight visual upgrade, so I do not think it's worth the price, even at $18. If I was going to rate this Tommy Boy 4K Blu-ray, which I love the film Tommy Boy, but if I was going to rate the 4K Blu-ray on a score of 1 to 10, I got to give this one a 5 out of 10. There is just not enough on here to justify upgrading to 4K Blu-ray. Now, if you don't own that previously released Blu-ray, this is something probably more in line with like a 7 out of 10 because the extras on there, if you've never seen them, I think are definitely worth it, but you know, if you're not getting an upgrade to that audio and you're only getting a slight upgrade to the visuals and you have that previously released Blu-ray, there's really no reason for you to pick this one. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, me talking about Tommy Boy. And if you did like this one, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggalo, or even a channel director like Nicholas Head, Uncle V, and Kevin Kruger, you can do that. And even if you want to bump it up to the bankroll members like Frank from Frank's Media Reviews and Mr. Smelly Potato, you can do that as well. Look for all of the information in the description below. But if you have no money to throw away, guys, don't worry about it. We just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around. But if you got no money to throw away, oh my god. But if you have no money to throw away, guys, don't worry about it. We just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.